You're the Florida version of Sex in the City, JD.
That's when I was smoking my cigars.
Never stop chasing your dreams.
And never say never.
Don't be an asshole today.
Hey!
Glasses. Okay, now we're
There
good.
we are. I'm back. You're back.
We're good. Oh, look. Oh.
Oh, I left mine inside. Could I go get it? Can you give me
Up
2
to you.
seconds? Yeah. I had it already. I just forgot it inside. Here it is.
Okay. Oh.
Our Rainbow Remix co-host mugs.
So we have Ian Hawkins with us.
Yes.
I'm going to have him explain a little bit about what he does because it's interesting. It's quite interesting.
Oh, I love the picture.
There he is.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Hawkins. I feel like we're in school.
Oh no. Well, we're going to laugh and learn. That's
We're
our
gonna
thing.
laugh and learn. I just said to JD,
Uh-huh.
who's in South Florida, probably in the middle of a hurricane. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the other side, so we're
Okay,
good.
you're on the other. Okay.
Yeah.
I was telling her that I'm going to have you explain what it is that you do because I find it really interesting. This is a guy who walks into a room full of strangers at a corporate event and gets everybody talking.
Nice.
I
Wow.
can't even imagine.
I know, which as a British person is not something that we naturally do. It's not part of our national character.
There it is. There it is. Yes. It's so true. You guys are so polite and so well behaved. And yeah,
We have our moments.
Yeah. In a way, yeah. But I'm really impressed because I mean this is like you've been doing this a while.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. Yeah, so let me tell you what I do. I've been working around the events industry for about 20 years, either writing stuff or helping other people become better speakers or standing on a stage and moderating at conferences. But I also do keynotes. My belief is, and it's very straightforward, my belief is that stories are the software that we use to program our brains. So if your story works, it tells your brain what to do next. And when you understand the stories that other people are running, it explains everything about their behavior. And if you want to change your behavior, you have to change your story. It's kind of as simple and as complicated as that.
Yeah.
And is it easy to draw people out of their shell? Because I know back when I was working for a huge company back in the States, insurance company, and we would have a meeting and some stranger would come in and say, okay, we're going to go around the room and you're going to say what your name is and what you do and tell us an interesting fact about yourself. I would just cringe, and I could look around and see everybody else doing the eye roll, but you must have a better technique than just that.
I do all sorts of things. So one of the things that I think is really important, the reason why you feel the cringe when you have to do that is because it's really hard to sum yourself up in 2 sentences. What do you say? So I always find that it's easier to have a question that frames it a little bit better. So if this was, as I sometimes do host Zoom calls, I say, hello, what I'd like you to do is say your name, say what you do, and then just find the thing on your desk that nobody else can see, but that you think is quite interesting or weird that you want to show people that's on your desk. So my name's Ian, I'm a speaker, and the thing I have on my desk is a little pot of Fortnum and Mason's. You put it, honestly, you put it on toast. It's gorgeous, except I keep my penknife in it.
Oh, how funny.
So that's what I have.
Oh,
So,
my goodness.
Because you won't believe the stuff that people keep on their desks.
Oh, I do believe it. I remember those days. I remember those days well.
I still have one.
Exactly. And then you don't talk about what your achievements are or what your kids are doing at school. You just talk about something nice and safe that's on your desk and that everybody can relate to. And that is a lot easier to do than to sort of try and sum yourself up in a couple of seconds.
That's a good icebreaker. Definitely. So do you find these things like now just second nature, or I would get nervous every time walking into a room that I know nobody, and I've got to be the one that kind of, runs this event.
Yes, but then again, I think the audience has an expectation. If they expect the day to start at 9 o'clock and you look at your watch and it's 8:59 and 48 seconds, you have to steel yourself and go. The 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 thing is, I would describe myself as an introvert, Denise, and the great advantage that anybody has when they're an introvert doing this job is that they don't make it about themselves. They don't think, God, I'm embarrassed to be here. Me and my big mouth. What they do is they say, what does the audience need? How am I serving this audience? And so rather than saying, I'm fantastic, I'm marvelous, I'm the solution to all your problems, you look around and go, right, what are your problems and how can I connect you to the other people that I'm going to be bringing on, or the ideas I've had or my experiences? How can they help you? And it's nothing to do with me. It's about you and your issues and what we can do to solve them.
And they're right there though, right? I mean, when you do these things, I mean, like I don't think I ever had, and JD, you're a performer, you're a singer, but when I would host a Pride event, um, or a L-Fest event or whatever we were doing, everybody's so far away. And I
Right.
feel so protected,
Mm-hmm.
being on this stage and not being able to see right in someone's eyes. You know what I mean? It just
Especially if there's a light shining back at you. You don't even see the people.
right,
You just see
right.
the
It makes it
shadow
a little
of
bit
who.
easier, but man, you are right in the
Yeah,
trench.
you just feel the adrenaline and do it anyway, don't you? You've got
Yeah,
it's between you and the
exactly.
mic. JD, I'm worried about you. Whereabouts in South Florida are you?
I am on the East Coast. I'm in Boca Raton, so the
Uh-huh.
most of this weather, the hard weather, is happening on the West Coast in Tampa.
Okay.
But we're getting the other weather, like the outer bands, the
You're
rain.
getting the dirty side. I know. My
Yeah,
mom
we're getting
sent me a
that.
video.
Thank you for being worried. I appreciate that, Ian.
Well, no, my
Uh,
experience of Florida is that the weather's like a faucet, and that's when it's normal. You
Yeah,
walk out and you
yeah,
go, "What a
yeah,
beautiful sunny day." Then you had 20 minutes of horrendous rain,
right.
yeah,
and then
yeah.
They did
your
actually
car
close.
floats away.
They did
Yes,
actually close the schools on this side, though,
I
Denise.
saw
Even
that
though
today.
it's all
Yeah,
happening on the west side because of the wind. It's very windy,
yeah,
but
yeah. My mom sent me some video, and I just got back Tuesday morning, so I left Monday, and I mean, I got out just in time. Like, ooh.
with the weather, okay.
Oh my
With
God,
so,
honestly.
would you call yourself a coach, Ian? Like, so when you go to an event,
Hmm.
you're preparing the people for that event. Like, you're not the event, right? You're
No,
putting
I do
everybody
a couple of
through.
things. So, and I say I do lots of things because if I could do one thing just really well, I'd get bored. I'd get really bored. So I either moderate an event, which means I'm the person who stands on stage and holds the whole day together and says, your next speaker is JD, uh, your next speaker is Denise, or I would be a keynote speaker. So I talk about storytelling, how stories work, and how stories are the software that your brain runs on. Or if you come to me and say, I'm nervous about speaking, or and I too much, or I don't really know how to structure my speech, I will be able to work with you and coach you to become a better speaker. And in the
Oh,
UK, I've worked with some of our politicians, I've worked with Olympic athletes, because when you retire at 28, there's not a lot you can do except go off and become a motivational speaker.
Right.
I've worked with all kinds of people, and I have a particular fondness for technology people, because I think technologies are really there's only a few people that really understand the nuts and bolts of technology, and the people that pay for it, people right at the top, they tend to be a bit older and they're not digital natives, they don't understand how it works, and the rest of us down here on the ground, we don't understand how it works, we just use it. So it's
yeah.
Yeah.
incumbent on those people in the middle, who I think technology is changing the world in so many ways, it shapes what we do. They have a responsibility, as well as creating good tech, they
Yeah.
have to communicate that to the
Yeah.
people that are using it and the people that are paying for it.
Yes. Yeah. That's so true. There's like that middle group there that knows, what's going on. And
Mhm.
I'm guessing for them to explain it in layman's terms to other people, that's a challenge for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
They know
I
the information, you know?
I would think also that the kind of person, their personality that works in tech usually is not the kind of person that wants to get up and talk in front of people, right? Like they're not like
Yeah.
I
It could
find
be-
people that
Yeah.
like the nerdy, you know,
Yeah. Like the
like,
Big Bang guys. Yeah. Like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
they're usually not the people
Yeah,
that
yeah.
want to get out
Yeah.
there and connect with people on a personal so
Right.
much level. They're like
We-
so technology driven.
We can use the word nebbisher, and we all know what we're talking about. So,
Yes.
but again, so I'd say you're an introvert, and if you're an introvert, you're at a huge advantage because you're not making it about yourself, telling other people what your knowledge is. Your interest is in the audience, and are you understanding me?
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's a great beauty when you look out across an audience and you see light bulbs go on, and you see people going, "Oh, I get it." That's really nice. I've worked as a comedian for 7 years, and the feedback from
Oh.
comedy is immediate because you get a laugh. And if
Yeah.
you're talking about technology, you're not going to get many laughs, but you might get a little bit of, oh right, that's why this happens.
Yeah, that's their laugh. That's their
Yeah.
exactly. It's so
Right.
true. Ian, did I read somewhere that you also did something for the BBC?
I do all sorts of yeah. I started my life, like I say, my career has gone like that.
Shape shifting, right? Right.
All over the place. I started life, I left university, and a friend of mine said to me, in a slight panic, said, I went to a party and I agreed to write this comedy show for the BBC Radio, and it's due on Thursday, and I can't think of any jokes. And you're quite funny, my funny friend at school. Could we sit down and write some jokes? And I went,
Yeah.
okay. And we sat down, we wrote jokes for this Radio 5 live program, and we just never left. 18 months later, we were head writers on this show.
Oh.
We did other stuff for the BBC. We did bits of television. We did all sorts, and it was a really good experience because we were very dedicated to that idea of how many laughs we were getting per page, and the subjects we were writing about was everything that was in the news. So anything that came up, we would make jokes about it.
Wow.
I will say this, man. British people, when it comes to the news, on all the different panel shows, and they have a way of just finding it, to get it across, to make it funny, but understandably so. Like I can watch Have I Got News for You, even the old ones when I didn't even know what was going on, and still find it funny. Now, having said that, they just started an American Have I Got News for You.
I know, I'm intrigued by that because you've got Wait, Don't Tell Me over there, haven't you? And that's like I always think of that as we do a program called The News Quiz, which is all about the news.
Right.
On the radio, and I used to write for that, and I always think of Wait, Don't Tell Me as being a very similar, coming from a similar background. But Have I Got News for You, US style? That's going to be fascinating.
You have that show now?
Show was I watched it a couple of times when I was just back, and it had just debuted. It's got Roy Wood Jr. hosting, and then it's got a couple different people, but their anchor people are Amber Ruffin and Michael Ian Black, I think his name is. And it's very funny, but it's very raucous. It's very chaotic, like it was like, whoa, like this is, I mean, how could you not poke fun at what's going on right now in the middle of an election? We're 40 days out, and so you never know what could possibly come next. 40 days to go. And never know who the scapegoat's going to be, honestly.
Yeah. Whoever you are, one day it will be Lesbian Week, and that will be the week.
I know. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm so prepared. So tell me how you get work. Like do
I was just going to ask that.
like do big companies like contact you? Do you have more one-on-one stuff, or is it quite a nice balance?
I'm very blessed, I think, really, that people like to work with me, and so the work comes in from people I have worked with.
Oh, that's
I'll
great.
give you two examples recently, which is that the one day the phone just rang, and somebody said, "Do you do coaching?" And I thought, for God's sake, what do you think I've been posting about on LinkedIn for the last month? I said, yes. He said, "Oh, brilliant. Can you talk to my boss? She wants somebody to run a workshop. We do have a supplier, but we're not sure if they're the right people. We'd like to work with you instead." And I've said nice things because I've worked with you in the past. Oh, yeah, okay. And then somebody else said, "Do you know any good videographers?" And I said, "I know lots of good videographers, but I only know one great one. And this is the person you need to talk to. And he will understand the job. He won't be the cheapest, but he's a lot less expensive than hiring somebody terrible and then having to hire him again and fix it."
Good point. Yeah.
And I just sent him a note to say, "By the way, I've let these people know you'll be hearing from them." And he said, "Oh, I was just going to call you actually because I've got this project I want you to work on." Fantastic. So that's what. Oh, and this morning somebody said, would you run a quiz for the Spice Girls in December?"
Oh,
So
how
it's
funny
like,
is that?
it's
You
like,
never know
yes.
what it's going to be. It could be anything. That's fun. That's got to be interesting.
My wife would crawl over broken glass to go to a Spice Girls quiz, win it, and win it.
Well, I did this last year. It's like this is madness. It was this little pub in East London, right? So whatever you think of a little British pub, you're correct. It was like that, and they just filled it with these amazing people. We had Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. We had two Spice Girls. We had various people off the telly, and we did a pub quiz. Yeah, bonkers.
Oh my God.
And you
Holy,
and each one of them was like hosting a table of guests,
oh my
and
God.
Wow.
I was quizmaster. I was like, this is utterly surreal.
That's
I thought,
great.
and last week I was doing a conference on cybersecurity.
You have
That's
to
hilarious.
prepare. Like, how much do you have to study about the actual subject matter of the event you're going to be getting people, united or
So if
that's
it's
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so if it's a cybersecurity thing, I will tend to know a little bit about it. I'll tend to do a little bit of journeying up on it, and I'll get a briefing document from the client. If there's big speakers, I'll go through their stuff and make sure I know what their attitude is, what they're kind of what they talk about. The joy of what I do is that I'm either presenting something. I do a bit of journalism and writing as well. So very often I will have written something fairly recently about the industry in which I'm presenting. So that requires a little bit of research as well. So generally I go in, but my job is not necessarily to be an expert as a moderator. My job is to ask questions. And I think there's an art and a skill to asking the right questions and asking intelligent questions and knowing enough to ask the right questions. But my job is not to go there with any of the answers. And
Yeah.
That's
that's a
helpful.
little that is very helpful.
That's very helpful. I like that. I did a podcast. I moderated a podcast panel at a big event a couple of years ago, and it felt so comfortable and so easy because I've been doing this since 2006. So
Yeah.
but it was amazing to meet the newcomers, and how difficult it used to be versus now how easy it is, and get all that. So even though I was moderating, I felt like I was learning the whole time. Like as an OG, I was just like, oh God, this is really interesting. And then I would forget I was moderating it because I was like really into it. So yeah, it's got to be, you know, good and bad. Like I'm sure it's never boring.
Do you mean you were learning about the moderating job, or do you mean you were learning about how
No,
to do
well,
podcasting, how to
I
change?
will say this, I had never moderated a panel
Right.
before, and I knew like three out of the five people that were on the panel, but it was the group that showed up that I was so impressed with. The oh God, I sound like an old lady when I do the youngsters,
No.
that we're asking these questions that I mean, I wouldn't have expected in a million years, but I felt like I was learning from them, listening to the people that were on the panel, and I was the one that they chose because I had the most experience, and I was like, I don't now, anymore. Like I don't have experience in this new way of doing things. I'm old school. So I felt like it was twofold. Like I was learning even though I was moderating, but it was really, really good. Like it was,
But
I
yeah,
love.
but then trends change, don't they? Even in podcasting or new media, whatever it is,
Mhm.
trends changed. So I went to see somebody speaking the other day, and she's really, really good. And she said she was doing a thing about the differences between the generations, and she had it's not every day I say this. She had very entertaining PowerPoint slides
Oh wow.
because right, I know,
Yeah.
stunned me. She had a PowerPoint slide, and it was do why are Generation X so, and then she let Google fill in the gaps,
Oh,
right? And
okay.
there's one for Boomers, one for Generation X, one for Gen Z, Gen Z. Uh, and I said to her afterwards, I said, well, the thing is, I said, I don't think Gen Z people use Google anymore. I think they just put their question into TikTok.
Yeah.
So boomers
So
boomers
true.
use dictionaries. Boomers have got a shelf full of the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yep.
Uh, the millennials use Google, and Gen Z probably use TikTok.
Exactly. It's so true. I just posted something about that. Like
Yeah.
I'm like Gen X, so I was brought up on reading, and I'll read fast,
Mm.
but I'll read an article. So send me the link to the article, not the guy from TikTok that's talking about the
Right.
article,
I'm with you
Like,
on that. Yeah.
But
yeah. I
that's
well, I bang on about threads all the time and how you
mm.
can curate your feed to be exactly what you want to see. And the
Yeah.
same thing with comments, like when people, jump on board and say like nasty things or mean things, it's just like, whoop, hide comment, and then nobody piles on. So
Yeah.
it's very
Right.
streamlined
Right.
to see exactly what you want. But I find that mentally a little better than when it used to be Twitter and,
Mm.
over there in that dumpster fire. So yeah, I'll take that right now at this phase of the game because it's a little more like-minded. But I know there's jerks everywhere. So I mean, you just have to weed them out.
But I suspect though that kind of content curation, because there's so much content now, curation is going to be so much more important, and how we do it.
Oh yeah.
And that does we do end up risking just dividing people even more. That's why I think live in-person events are super important,
They
Yeah.
really are.
because
They really are.
How
not
much time do you get to prepare when you get, a gig or, an event to
I
do?
will usually I'll have a good couple of days to just bone up on stuff, you
Mhm.
know. Um,
Yeah.
and I will put the work in on that, because I think it's quite important to go out and try and sound like you know what you're talking about.
Especially with
Yeah.
big companies. Like I noticed over here, a lot of times like the way things are advertised,
Mhm.
it's like a really artsy commercial, but it doesn't really tell you the
Yeah.
company until the very
Right.
end, and it might be like really small and you know, but also too, there's so many big companies out there now, like you might recognize a name but not really know what they do.
Yeah,
Kind of on you to figure out what it is that they do. And uh, I guess it's different than running a workshop. Like when you're, keynote speaker or running a workshop, I think you know what your work is going.
mm.
But when you're hosting at a conference or something, you do need to have a little background on the company because you're doing like big corporate events too, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and so when somebody comes in and says we're a solutions provider for the, I don't know, the cloud industry, or
Yeah.
or the cloud migration industry,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they'll niche down even more. And you go, yeah, what does that actually mean? What do you
Yeah.
actually do?
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
so true. It's so
And you
true.
think, oh, we've just done our Series A funding for 500 million, and our turnover is this and that. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Well, you must do something fairly crucial, but I cannot make head nor tail of it. What do you?
It's too much, man. So it's really honestly like especially over here, like I said, and everything's contract work too. It's
Mhm.
a whole different way of life, you know, it's from what I am used to. So it's very different. Do you ever get to do any LGBTQ events?
I've done a couple. I did the Manchester Gay Police um, conference. I was that was in my comedy day, so I did some stand up comedy for them. At the end of the day, they treated people to me telling jokes. What could be more fun?
Oh, how cool is that?
uh, I've most of my LGBTQ stuff has been as a comedian, but I do the quiz at a conference called QED in Manchester, and although it's not specifically LGBTQ, it is very LGBTQ friendly, and there's always you look around, you go, oh, there's lots of rainbow flags, lots of queers here. This is
Yeah, excellent.
my kind of town.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so I do that as a partly because it's a skeptics conference. As a skeptic, I enjoy going to the conference, and I do the quiz for them in exchange for the the ticket, and I love doing it because it plugs me into that community, and
That's great.
it's
Yeah, that's
always
fantastic.
and
I
it's always
did.
a lot
I
of
worked
fun. Yeah,
at a pub for a couple of years, and every Wednesday was quiz night. And
right.
yeah, and I hated it because I was
Why?
working. I wanted
Ah,
to be in on it, you know, but I couldn't because I'm, you know, slinging chips and fish and burgers and it was always the busiest night. Like they would cram as many tables as they could and they would fill up. It was just always booked solid. It was like the biggest night of the week. And I was just like, oh my God, do I have to work it again? There's not even room. I was handing people other people's food and saying, "Can you pass this to the guy in the corner? Because there's no
would
way I'm getting through." You know,
would not
like
have got past
that
me.
crammed. But the Brits love a quiz, and it is like now I get
Yeah,
it.
the Americans love a trivia night as well. But I tell you, I got very close once to moving to New York, and
Oh.
I always thought if it happened, if I moved to New York, what would I do? I thought the first thing I would do is I would start going around all the bars and saying, you should have Wednesday night is Brit quiz night.
Yeah,
And that would bring every British person that works in New
out of
York
the woodwork.
come out
Yep,
of the
so
woodwork,
true.
and they come down to the
So
bar,
true.
and that would be my social economy.
So true.
Actually, genuine. This was really exciting. I was once doing this pub quiz in Hampstead in London, and I was wandering around the tables, and I was saying, "Do you want to be in a quiz? Do you want to be in a quiz? I'm starting a quiz. Do you want to do the quiz?" And I come to this table. It's got a big family at it, and I think, yeah, they're probably not going to be up for it. They're having some kind of family thing, and I say, quiz starts at 7 o'clock. Would you be up for it? And I realised I'm looking into the face of the actor, the Oscar-winning actor Jeffrey Rush
No
from
way.
Pirates of the Caribbean. And
Oh
I
my
say, "Do you want to be in a quiz?" And I think the answer's going to be no. And he goes, "Yeah, all right."
God.
And then he plays the quiz. It comes down to a tiebreaker. So I say, could team here and team there send up a person? And so team here sends up whoever, and they send Jeffrey Rush
Of course they
to
did.
play higher or lower. And the amazing thing was, in that pub, 50% of people had no idea who he was,
I was
and the
just
other
gonna
50%
say
of the
you.
people were like, "It is Oscar-winning actor Jeffrey Rush," and
That's
I played it very cool, but he was in no way interested in winning, the 200 quid or whatever it was.
right. Exactly. Give it back.
Derisory amount of money.
That's great. Now, what is it? I've seen this, I think it was in your bio,
Mm.
that you had to deliver sad news to the Queen.
Ah, yes. Poor old uh, Queen Elizabeth II. It was a bit of a weird job, which is if you, whenever you meet royalty, have you ever met a member of the royal family? Okay. So the first thing is
No.
you have to turn up early, and then if you're sensible, if somebody there takes pity on you, they go, make sure you go to the loo, because your access to a toilet is not going to be possible until the royal has left. So
Oh.
that's your brief, and you might have to arrive 3 hours early because of security.
Oh my
And fortunately, I was at the Sandringham Women's Institute annual general meeting, of which Her Majesty the Queen was president. And every year she would turn up and sign off the minutes for the club. And the Women's Institute, if I don't know if you have it in the United States, but it is, it's basically where women can get together and socialize. And in the UK, it's particularly about making jam and making cakes. It's got quite a middle class image, particularly if your chapter has the Queen as the president.
Oh.
So urban ones would be much more sort of, younger women, entrepreneurs, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This one, Sandringham, the middle of the countryside, it's quite traditional. Cakes, scones, we make jam. And so I was there to do a talk about being a writer. And the Queen comes in, we all stand up and we sing the national anthem. And it's hideously embarrassing because I'm the only man in a room full of women and my voice is an octave below.
Oh my God.
And she's standing 6 feet in front of me. And all I can do is sort of look at her, and she looks at me. And she's used to this, so she's not phased, and I'm a bit freaked out. She says, yes, and she says to me, Mr. Hawkins, what do you do? And I say, I'm a writer. I'm a writer, ma'am. She says, what do you write? I said, I write comedy. I write comedy for the BBC. And she says, I like to laugh. My favorite program is Last of the Summer Wine. And I said, oh, right, okay. And then I thought, I'll just share a bit of gossip I'd heard that morning. I said, they're cancelling that. And the Queen looked at me and she went, and off she moved.
She didn't want to hear that.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So that she's going to go back and they're going to go, how was your day? And she's going to go, well, not good. I've had 3 slices of cake, a lot of jam, and guess what? They're taking off the telly. Can I phone someone?
Watches.
That is hysterical. Oh my God. My wife's grandfather visited us a couple years ago for a whole month of December. And I love them. I love the man. And he was a very strict schedule. He would get up, he would get himself dressed and everything, and he would toddle up the high street and get a newspaper and a coffee. And then he would come back and we would have a little chat or whatever. And he would sit himself in front of the TV and turn it on, and it would be right on the channel. And he would watch Last of the Summer Wine for the whole afternoon until he fell asleep. So it must be a very special show for older folks.
It's very gentle. So it's the same writer, Roy Clark, who does Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh, my wife's favorite. Yeah.
Right.
Like I have a friend, Daniel, that writes for BBC Radio now. He does episodes of The Archers.
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's, I always post about it, and I always know when to listen, even though I don't keep up. But I just go, "Oh, Daniel wrote that," Don't know. JD, it's so different here to have plays still on the radio, like radio theater. It's just
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's just it's just
That's interesting.
it really is. It's like old timey, but not. Like I don't really know how to explain it. It's old timey, but it's
The
not.
radio, like the soap operas they used to do on the radio.
That's what Archers, I think, is. The Archers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Archers is the longest running soap opera, I think, in the world, because it started in the 1950s.
Yep.
Wow.
And it was originally intended as a way of getting information out to farmers and rural people about whatever's going on in rural life, because countryside matters tend not to make the news. So it's about trying to get those issues out to those people, and they thought the best way to do it was to do it through a soap opera, through a scripted drama, and it's just kept going and going and going. And
I think about the
strong.
fact that like Daniel's probably late 40s, early 50s, and he's and he's writing this stuff that has been around forever. Like he's been a fan his whole life and is now writing for it. It's like that's a really cool job, like that's amazing. But
Yeah.
it's different
It
here. Like
is, yeah.
when I was, really into Twitter before it became a cesspool of toxic
Mhm.
dumpster fire trash, I used to follow the BBC Writers Room account.
Right.
They
Yes.
always had so many cool events that you could either go to or submit stuff, or like they were very open, it seemed like, to get new material, to get eyes on it. And
Mm.
you don't see anything like that in the States. It's all about who luck. Like you're never gonna break in unless there's a crack somewhere, and
Yeah,
but here it just they seem so welcoming to new talent.
The
yeah.
BBC is a bit of a strange beast, though. It, because I did loads of the BBC, and I can remember once sitting in a meeting with the head of comedy, and she said to me, "Oh my goodness, Ian, you've done so much." And I said, "Yes, you would think I'd find it a lot easier to pay my bills." Because it doesn't actually pay that well. And I think with any of this stuff, there does come a point where you have to, persistence pays off. And if you're
Yeah,
not from a reasonably wealthy background, it's quite hard to be persistent. And in the UK, there is certainly I think it's quite a big problem of working class voices not being heard. And you look around at the sort of layer of people we have, which is not to say they're not funny, and like the actors, it's not to say they're not good actors, but when you have people like Benedict Cumberbatch or um,
Hugh Bonneville.
Hugh Bonneville, Eddie Redmayne, and you go, yeah, but they all came out of public school so private school where they all paid thousands of pounds per term,
Yeah,
and you think of people like me that went to comprehensives where my family didn't, my family doesn't know the editor of the Sunday Telegraph,
right.
and
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my uncle is not a West End producer
yeah.
or a
Yeah.
big agent, so it's
Know
still the
someone.
case that there's a big disconnect between the classes, and I think it's a problem that is not easily fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to know it goes on over here too, then.
I was, yeah, same here.
So
Yeah,
sharp,
same.
The program I don't miss though is Gogglebox, because again, it's about curating the content. There's so
Yeah.
much content out there. I don't have time to watch it all. But what I do like watching is Gogglebox, which if
Yes.
JD, you won't know this show. What it is it's a show about people watching TV, and
Oh,
People.
the camera's on the telly, and they're sitting there watching telly like this. And she goes, "She's not going to do this. Oh, she is. Oh, she should dump him. He's no
Yeah.
good." And it's all these different programs, all the highlights from the week, and ordinary people just reacting to it.
It's so
we have
good.
something like that.
People's Couch.
Well, they
Oh,
used to have People's Couch, but then if you don't watch the 90 Day Fiance, Denise, but on 90 Day Fiance, they do something called Pillow Talk, where they have the people that were on the show in previous seasons sitting in bed watching it like from their bedroom and commenting on the new people seasons and talking
Oh
about those
God.
people. And
That's
it's always
trashy.
follows
That's
the
trashy.
episode. Yeah, it is. And now like like you were talking about to get on like the new talent, to get on TV or break into the business, it's so hard. But when you want to break into the reality show business, you have to be either a freak of some sort or
Yep.
you have to be having like a bunch
Shameless.
of unusual
Shameless.
amount of children or something has to be really unusual. And
mm,
yeah, shameless, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yep.
Shameless? Yeah, I
Shameless.
mean, they don't have normal people on these. It started out, they used to be normal
Yeah.
couples.
Yeah.
And now it's like you have to have the weird, freaky guy, and the woman that you would never think would be the person that would be going with him, but she wants to come, to live in America. But yeah, it's it makes it, if that's what you're going for, which is probably the bottom level of television, is
I
the
don't know,
reality
man. I
shows.
think like the goggle box is just different because like not
Is it
only
any show?
not only are you invested in what they're watching? You're invested
Yeah.
in them, these families. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Have
I
the same.
love that it's the same people all the time. I mean, I was like gutted, when Leon died, or like the ones that the older people that you would watch and
Yeah,
find out.
there's a family called the Malones, and they have like about four Rottweilers. And
Oh,
one of their
Dave. Yeah.
yeah, one of the
Yeah.
Rottweilers died, and I found myself going, oh,
Oh,
and I
Dave.
thought,
Yeah.
you don't know this dog,
Yeah.
you
I
don't know these
know.
people.
It's
You
crazy.
kind
You're just,
of did.
I mean, you're literally just as invested in them as you are in what they're watching. It's
Yeah, yeah.
fantastic. But I think the new way of reality TV is the the challenges. So it's almost game showy, like Traders.
Hmm.
Traders,
Traitors is a great example.
it's a fantastic show with real people that understand that they've signed up for this. They've got to do physical challenges. They've got to weed out who the traders are, but it's real people, and it's a whole different dynamic when you don't know who to trust. So that
Yeah,
part of it is like the best part as you're kind of going along with, oh no, God, no, not don't. This is a new alliance. Oh no, oh, don't.
yeah, and that's presented by Claudia Winkleman, who I think is such a good call for it.
Oh, she's
She's
perfect.
so she's so perfect because she's kooky and she's
Yep.
a bit gothic, but she's also really quite nice and friendly. But she's like the posh girl at school who's quite good at hockey, and
Yeah,
she's got a big sister vibe to her.
and a fantastic wardrobe, you know.
Fantastic wardrobe.
And
Uh,
that's the thing. Like I watched you got JD. You have to watch the US one because I didn't like the first couple seasons, but this
Yeah.
latest one was fantastic, and you get the bonus of having Alan Cumming as the host.
Oh, I'm gonna
right.
have to watch
His
that.
outfits make Claudia Winkleman look like she shopped on Vinted. Like, oh my God, he's so regal about everything, and just so I mean, he's so perfect for the job. And I think he won the Emmy this year after like 12 years of RuPaul winning the Emmy for best
Yeah,
reality show host.
yeah, yeah.
I was
You
just
got
like,
that.
wow, that goes, I mean, it's going a long way.
Look for
Really good.
that. I have to find that show.
Yeah.
All of
Speak.
which. So yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, speaking of being prepared to speak in front of a crowd, when I asked you before how much time you get to prepare, one time in my life, I got the opportunity to speak in front of 60,000 people when I sang at the Lucas Oil Stadium. I was invited to sing one of my songs that I wrote for them. It was like a tribute to our troops, and I was invited to sing that at their Veterans Day game at the halftime show. So I had like a couple of months, like I knew that I was going to be doing this. So leading up to it, I said, "Do you want me to say anything?" And they're like, "No, it's only a 15-minute halftime. We're going to introduce you and you just sing the song. We'll say a little something." So I'm like, "Okay, great." Couple of months of this going back and forth. We're planning it, blah, blah, blah. The morning at the dress rehearsal, they say, "Why don't you say a few words instead of us introducing you?" And now I'm like, oh my God, I could have been thinking about this for 2 months. And, I've got like 3 hours now before it's time for me to go on. And like for those 3 hours, I was just going over because not only did now I have to think of something like intelligent and try not to say a lot of ums and, whatever, like pauses and keep focused. I had to do it quickly because it's only a 15-minute halftime and I wasn't the only person in the halftime.
Yeah.
So I was just, thank God it came, I don't know how I did it, but it came out okay. And I was thinking maybe it was because I didn't have 2 months to plan of what I was going to say. Do you think that maybe it's better not to be so prepared and to try to do it off the cuff?
I think if you'd had 3 months, you'd have driven yourself crazy.
Yeah, maybe.
JD. I think you just had so many sleepless nights. I think that's probably the sensible thing. Also, I'm glad you raised the point about not doing too many ums and ers because that's as a coach and as someone that listens to a lot of speakers, that is the thing that gives away the rookie. That's what gives away the
Right?
person that's because it undermines all of your authority and being in charge. So rather, I see so many speakers that go on and say, and they start by going, "So, I'm here to talk about," and you want to go, and actually, what you want to do is go on and say, "I'm here to talk about you,
Right,
the
right.
troops. Let's do that," and that's so much more powerful.
Mhm.
It
And
really
That
is.
was
what I would advise anybody watching this to do is when they stand on that stage, say nothing, take a breath, and if you feel yourself about to say "so," stop yourself and think,
so.
what is the first word of this sentence? And it's not
Yeah.
"so," and it's not it's
Right.
whatever it is. And
Hello.
hello, yeah, start with a hello. Hello,
Yeah,
nice to
can't go
be
wrong
here.
there. Can't go wrong there.
The reason
Unexpectedly.
the reason I knew about the thing, like I was very focused on not to say was because back when I was working in corporate America, this this guy had a girlfriend who used to come in the office every once in a while, and she had to speak about something. Wasn't any big deal of a thing, but there was this person that worked there, and he said to her, you know, when you speak, you say a lot and it makes you sound really unintelligent. And like that always kind of stuck with me. And it wasn't even anything that important she was coming in to talk to us about. So when I had I get a chance to speak in front of people and a whole stadium full of people, I knew not to, to not do and so I didn't really realize so, but that's another one. Yeah.
So's the new one.
So
And
is
then,
So's
yeah.
and
I
then
agree.
people think they're getting away with it because they say basically. And I'm like, no, basically is just an with a degree. You know, it's with a high school diploma. It means nothing. Yeah.
It's got to be awful for you too to listen to Americans because all we ever say is like
like,
like like what do you do? Like what do you do? What do you oh my God, it's got to be so annoying.
I really enjoy American voices.
Oh
I
wow.
do. And although you might have a few people that say like a lot, that is just a verbal tick that lots of people grow out of or get rid of,
yeah,
or they
yeah.
realize it's a problem and get rid of it. I what is it? It's called the vowel shift that happened in the 17th century. So the idea is that Shakespeare would have all of the Shakespeare's vowels would have sounded a lot better with an American accent than with a modern British accent. So if you
Really?
listen to American Shakespeare, it has a certain cadence to it that I think works slightly better than when you have, I don't know, Laurence Olivier, whoever,
Yeah.
doing I have of late, but wherefore no, not lost all my mirth. You
Oh my.
know.
I can't even imagine. Like I think of so like did you ever see is it Denzel that does like Hamlet or Othello? Was it Denzel or I can't remember, but I just thought, how is this gonna work? And then I watched it. I went, you know what? That sounds good. Like I'm not intimidated by it the way I would be if I was sitting in the West End watching, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
think, well, Shakespeare came from Birmingham, so maybe he had a Birmingham accent, and
I never even thought about that.
maybe it all just makes more sense if you do a bit of Birmingham accent. You know.
Oh my God, I'm gonna ask Mandy that. I had my friends come on one time and I said to JD, I don't even understand Mandy because she's from Birmingham. So, like we're gonna struggle through this, you and me together, man. And I for
I
the
have
we didn't really have a hard time. She was pretty it was going, but yeah, I was when
a
I
hard
first
time understanding a Scottish accent.
oh
I
yeah,
think
we
I
had a tough
mentioned
time
that
with
to you
horse. Yeah,
before.
that was
We had horse on.
yeah.
Yeah, I had a hard time understanding.
We
And
struggle with their accents and they just laugh at us. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
generally, my
So
friends
it's
are
true.
Scottish.
It's so true. Well,
Yeah,
I'm so happy that we actually got to do this. It was a
Yeah,
long
me
time
too.
coming. I was away. I was having all kinds of dental stuff going on, and I'm like, first show back after dental work and then vacation,
yes.
and we nailed it with no issues. I'm thrilled.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, and you've had dental work done. Lots of people make fun about the British people for their teeth. My teeth are perfectly straight, but only if I do that with my head. So,
Are you kidding me? Mine come out. I mean,
all right.
fully made, yeah. And I
These are my
trusted my
teeth. If you
dentist.
don't like them, I have others. You know.
I was so nervous the night before. I kept telling my wife, I don't know. What should I do? Should I cancel? Oh my
Aw.
God. But
No,
no,
I
that
haven't
I
fixed.
put my faith in him and I am so
Look
happy.
at you. Look at that. Look at the big
Awesome.
smile.
Fabulous, darling. Fabulous.
I am fabulous now. Before it was horrible. But yeah, so anyways, I'm really super glad we got to do this. I'm glad that we made it work. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have met you and learned a little bit more about what you do
Oh, a
because
pleasure.
I've got a couple. Now that I have your email address, I might
Mhm.
drop you some contact information because I can think of a few um, friends that work for big companies, and I think that you would be perfect for their corporate gigs.
Oh, awesome. You
Yeah,
know, I'm keen to work without sounding desperate.
that's great. Look, I got that
Have
100%.
I'm trying to get that sweet spot of yeah, I'm available,
Nailed it.
but
Nailed
this ain't
it.
paying for itself.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, listen, you have a fantastic night, and thank you again so much for doing this. It was a
Thank
real
you.
pleasure.
JD, Denise, what a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. Don't ask me why I'm here tonight. I had to take this midnight drive to find you. And as I come in through the door, I see her dancing on the floor beside you. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you.